Someone tried to stop what God was sending to you. They used words, actions, whispers, and things you may never fully know about. They positioned themselves between you and the blessing that was already on its way, and they almost succeeded. Almost. But there is one thing they did not account for. You were chosen before they made their move, and what God has placed your name on cannot be blocked by anyone who was never meant to have authority over your destiny. Archangel Michael has a warning for you right now, and you have about 2 minutes to hear it before this window closes. Number one, the opposition you faced was proof that your blessing was real. Here is the first thing Archangel Michael wants you to understand in this moment. The people who tried to block your blessing did not act randomly. They acted because they could sense something moving in your direction that threatened what they were comfortable with. People do not invest energy in blocking what is insignificant. They block what is real, what is powerful, and what, if it reaches the person it was sent to, will change the entire landscape around them. The opposition you experienced was confirmation. When people work against a chosen one, when they whisper or maneuver or place obstacles in the path of what God is sending, they are unknowingly testifying to the reality and the size of what they are trying to prevent. Every attempt to block your blessing was a declaration from the people making it that your blessing is real enough to be worth blocking. And chosen one, it is more than real. It has been prepared for you with a precision and a love that no human opposition can touch. Think about the nature of what came against you, the specific timing of it, the specific people involved, the specific areas of your life that were targeted. None of it was accidental. The opposition was designed to reach the places where your faith was thinnest and your confidence was most uncertain. It targeted the areas where doubt already lived and added pressure to those exact places because the enemy of your destiny understands that the chosen one who is shaken at the foundation is easier to delay than the one who stands firm. But you are still standing. The opposition came, and you are still here, still moving, still choosing, still believing even when the belief was costly and uncertain and not yet confirmed by visible evidence. That standing is itself a miracle. And Archangel Michael is here to tell you that the standing was not in vain. Number two, they tried to block it, but God already moved it around them. This is the part of the message that chosen ones need to receive most urgently. While the opposition was focused on blocking what was coming toward you from the direction they could see, God was already rerouting the blessing through a direction they were not watching. This is the nature of divine provision for chosen ones. It does not require a clear path through the obstacles. It creates a path around them, under them, through spaces the opposition never thought to guard because they were too focused on the obvious route. The people who tried to block your blessing believed they had enough visibility into your life and your circumstances to successfully redirect what God was sending. They positioned themselves at what they thought were the strategic points. They used whatever influence and access they had to create barriers at the places they could reach. And from their perspective, they may still believe they succeeded. They may look at your life from the outside and see the obstacles they placed and conclude that the blocking worked. They are wrong. The blessing was never confined to the path they were guarding. God is not limited by the strategic positions of people who oppose his chosen ones. He is not surprised by their moves. He does not recalculate after they act. He saw their positioning before they moved into it and had already arranged the alternative route long before they thought to stand in the way. What is coming toward you right now is not arriving through the door they blocked. It is arriving through a door they did not know existed. Be alert to the unexpected direction. The blessing that was blocked from one path is arriving from another, and it will arrive in a way that makes the blocking irrelevant, that answers the need fully, and that confirms beyond any reasonable doubt that what God has designated for a chosen one cannot be permanently redirected by human opposition. Number three, Archangel Michael has been fighting on your behalf in spaces you cannot see. The warfare that has surrounded your life in this season has not been limited to what you could observe. The visible opposition, the people and circumstances that were working against your progress, was only the surface layer of something that was operating at a much deeper level. In the unseen realm, in the spiritual spaces that run beneath and through the visible world, a battle has been fought on your behalf by forces that do not require your awareness or your participation to be effective. Archangel Michael is the warrior of heaven. He is described in sacred understanding as the one who stands against the forces that come against God's chosen people. And his engagement in the battle around your life in this season has been real. The times when the opposition seemed to have full momentum and then suddenly stalled, that was not coincidence. The moments when something that should have reached you and damaged your faith or your circumstances somehow did not, that was not luck. The times when the attack seemed organized and targeted and then dissolved before it could complete its work, that was the result of a warfare being conducted on your behalf in spaces you cannot access. You were not navigating the opposition alone. You were never navigating it alone. The sense you may have had at various points in this season that something was holding the attacks back, that the worst of what was coming at you was somehow being absorbed before it reached its intended target, that sense was accurate. You were being protected. You are being protected. And the one doing the protecting is not doing it casually. He is doing it with the full authority of the heaven that sent him. The battle is not over. But the tide has shifted. And Archangel Michael's presence in this message is not just a reminder of the protection that has been active. It is a declaration that the protection is intensifying as you approach the breakthrough. Because as you get closer to what has been prepared for you, the opposition that wants to prevent your arrival intensifies, and so does the covering. Number 4, the people who tried to block you were operating with information they did not have. Here is something that will reframe the actions of the people who moved against your blessing. They acted on incomplete information. They could see a portion of your story. They could see the part you showed and the part that was visible from their vantage point. But they could not see what God was doing in you in the hidden places. They could not see the formation that had been happening in the seasons of difficulty. They could not see the depth that was being built in you through every challenge they and others had placed in your path. They could not see that every attempt to diminish you was in fact adding to your capacity rather than reducing it. They made their calculations based on what they could see. And what they could see was the version of you that had not yet fully emerged. They based their blocking strategy on a chosen one who was still in process, still forming, still developing the specific strengths that the next chapter required. And by the time those strengths were fully formed, by the time the chosen one they thought they understood had become the version that their strategy could not account for, it was too late for the strategy to work. Their information was always incomplete. The most important things about you, the things God was building in the hidden places, were never available to them. And a blocking strategy built on incomplete information cannot fully succeed against a blessing that was planned with complete information by the God who sees everything. They moved based on what they knew, and what they knew was not enough to stop what God prepared with full knowledge. Your blessing was never in their hands to give or withhold. It was always in His. Number 5, the delay caused by the opposition was not wasted time. Let's address something directly that may have been sitting in your spirit as a question, or even as a wound. The delay, the time that passed between when you expected the blessing to arrive and when it is now arriving. The season of waiting that was extended, at least in part, by the actions of the people who positioned themselves to block what was coming toward you. The cost of the opposition measured in time, in opportunity, in the specific things that a delayed blessing means in a human life. Was that time wasted? Was the delay simply loss with no redemptive dimension to it? The answer is the one that chosen ones who have been through the full process of formation already know in their deepest part. Nothing is wasted in the economy of God. The time that looked like delay was development time. Every day the blessing was being held back by the opposition was a day in which something was being built in you that the blessing required in its recipient in order to be properly stewarded. The delay was not punishment. It was preparation, not for you to suffer through, for you to grow through. And the growing happened, not because you chose it specifically, because you stayed faithful through a season that was designed to test whether you would. The opposition that caused the delay actually contributed to the formation that the blessing requires in you. The people who tried to block your blessing inadvertently extended the time in which God was building your capacity to receive and hold and use it well. They meant it for harm. God used it for your preparation. The delay is over now. The preparation is complete. And the blessing arrives not to a person who is less ready because they had to wait, but to a person who is more ready precisely because they did. Number 6. Your name has been written on this blessing since before the opposition existed. The final point of part 1 is the one that settles everything else. Your name was written on this blessing before the people who tried to block it were born, before they formed the intention to oppose you, before they identified the blessing as something they wanted to prevent, before any of the opposition that has surrounded your life in this season was even a possibility. God prepared what is coming to you with your specific name on it, not a generic blessing for anyone who happens to be faithful enough, a specific provision, a specific open door, a specific miraculous intervention tailored to your specific calling and your specific need and your specific moment in the story of your life. The people who tried to block it did not have the authority to remove your name from what already had your name on it. They do not have access to the preparation room where what God sends for chosen ones is built. They cannot enter the place where your blessing was formed and scratch your name off of it and write their own, or leave it blank, or redirect it to someone else. They have no jurisdiction there. None. And their lack of jurisdiction is the reason that everything they did to block your blessing has ultimately and finally and completely failed. You are chosen, and chosen ones receive what was prepared for them, not because they are without flaw or failure, because God's word over their lives does not depend on the opposition of others or the circumstances of the moment or even the doubts of the chosen one themselves. It depends only on the faithfulness of the God who prepared it, and that faithfulness has never once failed. What has your name on it is coming. The opposition is behind you, and the blessing is in front of you. Archangel Michael's warning has been delivered. Now stay alert for everything that part 2 is about to reveal. 7. The blessing arriving now is bigger because of what it survived. There is a dimension to what is coming toward you that the opposition actually made larger by trying to stop it. This is one of the most remarkable principles in the divine economy. When a blessing is resisted, when forces align against it and attempt to compress or redirect or eliminate it, the pressure of that resistance does not diminish what God sends. It intensifies it, like water that is dammed and builds in pressure behind the barrier until the moment the barrier breaks, the blessing that was held back by opposition arrives with a force and a fullness that a blessing that traveled without resistance would not carry. The people who positioned themselves to block what God was sending for you did not reduce it. They compressed it. They concentrated it. They created the conditions under which what arrives carries not only the original blessing, but the accumulated force of everything that tried to stop it and failed. What is coming toward you now is not the diminished version of what was originally prepared. It is the full version carrying additional momentum from every point of resistance it passed through on its way to you. Prepare for more than you originally expected. The blocking did not reduce your portion. It increased the pressure behind it. And when it arrives, it will be evident that what you are receiving is not the leftover portion that survived the opposition. It is the full portion arriving with the added force of everything that tried and failed to stop it. That is the God you serve, chosen one. He does not send less when the enemy resists. He sends the same and adds the force of the overcoming to it. What arrives is always greater than what was originally visualized precisely because it has been proven unconquerable in the sending. 8. God is turning the table completely in your favor. There is a moment in every chosen one's story where the dynamic that was working against them reverses entirely, where the people and forces that were positioned as obstacles suddenly find themselves unable to maintain that position, where the power they thought they had over your situation reveals itself as borrowed and temporary, and subject to a higher authority that was always sovereign over everything they were doing. That moment is now. The table is turning. Not gradually, not partially, but completely. The advantage the opposition believed they had is being removed. The access they had to the spaces where they could interfere with what was coming toward you is being closed off. The influence they exercised in the areas of your life where they had positioned themselves is losing its hold, not because you fought them for it, because the God who allowed the opposition for a season has now issued a different order. When God turns the table for a chosen one, it is not subtle. It is the kind of shift that the people who are working against you will feel in their own circumstances. The thing they used to block you becomes the thing that exposes them. The strategy they employed against your blessing becomes the evidence of their own misalignment. The position they held to limit your access becomes the position that limits them when the authority they were borrowing is withdrawn. You do not need to manage this turning. You do not need to engineer it or accelerate it or make sure the right people are watching when it happens. God is managing the turning. Your assignment in this moment is simply to keep moving forward as if the table has already turned, because chosen one, it already has. The visible evidence is catching up to the spiritual reality, and the catching up is happening faster than you know. Number 9. What was meant to silence you is becoming your loudest testimony. Every attempt made to block your blessing carried with it an unintended consequence that the people behind it did not foresee. By opposing you, by positioning against what God was sending, they created the very conditions that will make your testimony impossible to ignore. Because a blessing that arrives without opposition is simply a good thing that happened, but a blessing that arrives after documented, sustained, visible opposition is a testimony. It is the kind of story that silences doubt and activates faith in everyone who hears it. The people who tried to silence you, who tried to reduce your visibility, your credibility, your access, your momentum, have inadvertently written themselves into the most powerful chapter of your story, not as the villains you might be tempted to portray them as the evidence that what God sends cannot be stopped. The chosen ones who are covered cannot be taken out by human strategy, regardless of how organized or sustained or targeted it is. That the blessing with your name on it does not require a clear path through the opposition. It only requires the God who sent it to remain who he is. Your testimony is being written right now, and it is more powerful than it would have been without the opposition, because the opposition is the contrast that makes the arrival of the blessing undeniable. Without the darkness, the light does not have the same impact. Without the resistance, the breakthrough does not carry the same weight. The people who tried to silence you gave your testimony its power, and that testimony is about to speak in every room you enter. Number 10, the people who blocked you revealed their fear, not your weakness. When someone moves against a chosen one, when they position themselves to block, limit, or undermine what God is building in that person's life, they are making a declaration about themselves that they did not intend to make. They are revealing fear, not strength, not wisdom, not righteous judgment about something that needed to be corrected. Fear, the specific fear of someone who sees a chosen one moving in alignment with their purpose and recognizes, at some level they may not even consciously access, that what this person carries is something they cannot match, control, or compete with on equal terms. People do not block what they are not threatened by. The effort they invested in opposing you was the measure of how much your potential unsettled them. The specific areas they targeted were the areas where your strength was most visible to them and most threatening to the position they wanted to maintain. Every move they made against you was a move made from a place of insecurity about what you represent and what your full expression would mean for the dynamic they were comfortable with. This is not said to create contempt for them. It is said to reframe what their opposition meant about you. Their blocking was not evidence of your weakness. It was evidence of your power. The chosen one who is blocked by fearful people is not the chosen one who should question their own value. They are the chosen one who should recognize that their value is precisely what the blocking was responding to. You were blocked because you were too significant to be left alone. That is not a wound. That is a confirmation. Number 11. Archangel Michael says the window closing is not a threat. It is an invitation to move now. The title of this message carries a sense of urgency. 2 minutes left, a closing window, and chosen one, that urgency is real, but it is not the urgency of fear. It is the urgency of opportunity, the specific season in which the blessing that was blocked is arriving, the specific window in which what was held back is now being released, carries with it a particular quality of time that will not be indefinitely available. This is not God threatening to take back what he prepared for you if you do not act quickly enough. God does not operate that way with his chosen ones. This is the simple reality of divine timing. Every appointed moment in a chosen one's journey has its season, and the season that is open right now, the one in which the blessing is arriving and the opposition has been addressed and the path that was blocked has been cleared, this season has a specific window, not because God is impatient, because the sequence he has ordered for your life continues to move forward, and what is available in this specific moment of the sequence is available now. Move now, chosen one, not out of panic. Out of the grounded, faith-filled recognition that the moment you have been waiting for has arrived, and that waiting for a more certain time or a more comfortable moment would be the very thing that makes you miss what this specific window was holding for you. The 2 minutes in this title are not literal. They are the urgency of the spiritual moment made tangible. The message is this: do not delay anymore. The path is clear. The opposition has been addressed. The blessing is in motion. And the chosen one who steps forward now in this window with the full weight of everything they have survived and everything they have been formed into is stepping into the exact moment that was prepared for them. Step forward. The window is open. Walk through it. Number 12. What the opposition stole from you is being returned with increase. The losses that came directly from the actions of those who tried to block your blessing were real. Time that was consumed navigating opposition instead of building what you were called to build. Energy that was spent defending or recovering instead of advancing. Opportunities that were complicated or closed by the interference of people who were not supposed to have access to your path. Relationships that were affected by the narratives that were built around you by people who had reason to misrepresent what you were doing and who you were. All of it was seen. All of it was tracked. And God, who is the God of justice as well as the God of mercy, does not let the losses of his chosen ones caused by the deliberate opposition of others go unaddressed. What was stolen is being returned. Not in the exact form it was taken, because time moves forward and exact forms change, but in the equivalent value, in the kind of restoration that accounts fully for what was lost and returns it in a form that serves the current season rather than the past one. The time that was lost is being redeemed in the form of accelerated progress in the season ahead. The energy that was spent on survival is being restored in the form of renewed capacity and clarity. The opportunities that were blocked are being replaced by ones that are better suited to the version of you that exists now than the ones that were blocked would have been for the version of you that existed then. The relationships that were damaged by false narratives are being either repaired by the truth becoming visible or replaced by ones that are more aligned with who you actually are. What was taken from you was not the final word on your story. The return of it, in whatever form it takes in this season, is the continuation of a story that the opposition was never equipped to end. Number 13. Your discernment about who was behind the blocking has been accurate. Chosen ones have a specific quality of perception that is not shared by everyone around them. The ability to sense the real nature of people's intentions beneath the surface presentation. To feel the difference between genuine support and performed support. To recognize when someone's presence in their life is aligned with their growth and when it is quietly oriented against it. This discernment is not suspicion. It is the spiritual awareness of someone who has been formed through enough real experience to know the difference between what love feels like and what it does not. If you have had a knowing about specific people in your life, a sense that their energy towards you was not what it presented itself as, that there was something beneath the surface of the relationship that was not aligned with your good, that knowing was not paranoia, it was perception, the specific perception of a chosen one who was being given information they needed in order to protect what they were carrying in a season when what they were carrying was under real threat. Trust that discernment going forward, not as a reason to become closed or suspicious of everyone, as a tool for the selectivity that is required of chosen ones who are now entering a season where what they carry is more significant and where the people who have access to them need to be chosen with greater intentionality than before. The discernment you have is a gift. Use it without apology. The chosen one who honors their own perception is the one who builds an environment around their life that is aligned with the purpose they are carrying. The people the discernment pointed to were real. The warning was real. And the action of removing or limiting access that followed was not unkindness. It was wisdom. Number 14. The blessing is arriving through unexpected people in unexpected places. As the season of the blocked blessing transitions into the season of the arriving blessing, chosen one, be prepared for the delivery system to look different from what you expected. The people God uses to bring what is coming to you may not be the people you would have predicted. They may come from directions you were not watching. They may carry forms of connection, opportunity, or provision that do not match the image you had of how the blessing would arrive. This is intentional. The opposition focused its blocking on the expected routes, the obvious channels, the logical pathways through which a blessing like yours would naturally travel. And God, who is never limited to those routes, has arranged the arrival through the unexpected, through the conversation you did not plan, through the person you almost dismissed as irrelevant to your path, through the opportunity that arrived through a channel you had stopped monitoring because it did not seem like where your answer was coming from. Pay attention to everything in this season, not with anxiety or hypervigilance, with the open, receptive alertness of a chosen one who knows that the blessing is arriving and who is staying awake to every direction it might come from. The obvious paths are not where it is coming. The unexpected ones are, and the chosen one who is alert to the unexpected is the one who receives what arrives through it. Expand your attention, widen your expectation, and stay open to the blessing arriving through the last person, the last place, and the last pathway you would have chosen yourself, because God chose it, and that makes it exactly right. Number 15. Archangel Michael's final word: you are more covered than you know. The closing message of this warning from Archangel Michael is the simplest and the most important. Through everything that has been said in this message about opposition and blocking and warfare and the people who tried to interfere with what God prepared for you, there is one truth that holds everything else together. You are more covered than you know. The protection that has been active around your life in this season has not been the minimum required to keep you standing. It has been the full, comprehensive, carefully deployed protection of a God who does not provide partial coverage for the chosen ones whose assignments he has personally ordered. Every attack that reached you was the fraction that got through after everything else was absorbed. Every person who was in position to do more damage than they did was held back by something they could not see and did not understand. Every moment when the opposition had momentum and then suddenly lost it was the result of a covering that was working constantly in the spaces you could not observe. You have been more protected than your fear told you, more covered than the opposition wanted you to believe, more held than the seasons of difficulty felt like. And moving into this next chapter, into the season of the arriving blessing and the cleared path and the turning table, the covering does not reduce, it remains. Archangel Michael does not leave the post once the immediate threat has been addressed. He remains because the assignment ahead of you is significant, and the covering of a significant assignment is not temporary. Walk forward, chosen one, with the full knowledge that what walks with you is greater than anything that has ever walked against you, that the one who covered you through the blocking is covering you through the breakthrough, and that the blessing arriving now is arriving into the life of someone who has been protected, formed, proven, and made ready for exactly this moment. They tried to block it. They failed. You are chosen, and what has your name on it is here. Number 16. Do not go back to the people who blocked you for validation of the blessing they tried to stop. This point needs to be said clearly because it is the most common trap chosen ones fall into after a season of opposition ends. The natural human desire for acknowledgement for the people who opposed you to see and admit what God did on your behalf can pull a chosen one back into dynamics that have already been closed by divine order. The desire is understandable. The people who doubted you knowing that God proved them wrong feels like a resolution that the story needs. But chosen one, the resolution your story needs is not their acknowledgement, it is your forward movement. The people who blocked your blessing are not the audience for your breakthrough. They are not the ones whose recognition completes the testimony. In fact, returning to them for that recognition, or even spending significant energy hoping they notice and respond, keeps your attention anchored to a chapter that God has already turned the page on. The blessing that arrives after the blocking is not designed to prove something to the people who did the blocking. It is designed to equip you for the next level of your assignment.